welcome everyone to the Consistently OK podcast. My name's Luke, and I'm here as always with Nick.
Howdy.
And we're presenting you with a podcast centered around pop culture that we do our very best to make consistently okay for you. This week's trailer comes from Comic Book Club. Give them a like, a follow, and support a fellow comic book podcast. Here they are to tell you more.
What is up, everybody? I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And we host Comic Book Club, a weekly live talk show and podcast about comic books, 7 p.m., Crowdcast and YouTube, as well as your regular podcast listening places, iTunes, Stitcher, etc. And every week, we bring on the absolute best guests from the world of comic book, right?
Comic books, TV, film, we cover everything. You can come be part of the magic and lightly insult us throughout our recording, Tuesdays at 7, or just listen on your own time.
Yeah.
We also have comedians on there as well. It's a fun time.
Yes, thanks. It sounds like you're having fun, Pete. Pete actually is the guy who hosts our trivia where you can win a $25 gift card to Midtown Comics every single week. You can use it in the safety of your own home. Come check us out. We would love to chat with you about comic books, have a little fun, talk about some old four-color funnies.
Ah, nice. Fresh ref to close it out.
All right then, Nick. So it's been a long time since we've recorded. I'm hold my hands up. It's all my fault. I had COVID, and then my son got poorly again, and then I went to England. I visited England for the first time in a long time, and I saw you.
We did. It was weird. It was unusual.
It was very strange. Harry was there as well, and it was nice to see you both.
Yeah.
So I've been busy, and sadly, a lot of my hobbies and things that I do outside of work and being a father got put to the side. But hey, we're here. This is our season finale for season 2. And we have big plans for season 3, which we'll go into later. But for this episode, we're going to go out with a bang and talk about a few things from the last month of our lives, not to do with COVID or other illnesses, but to do with pop culture, because that's what the podcast is about.
It is, yes. It's not a medical one, sadly.
No, but speaking of medical things, I guess a good place to start is something that's been rumbling on for the last few weeks now, which is Moon Knight. So he's a bit fucked up. So should we dive into that first, or is there something else you want to go into first?
I'm happy to jump into Moon Knight.
Okay, so at this point of this podcast, we are 5 episodes in. Out of 6, so there's a season finale next week. So unfortunately, because we've been desperate to try and get something out, we're going to miss the season finale, but we will talk about it on our social media channels on Twitter and Instagram and things. If you want to know our thoughts, that's where you'll find them, because we won't get to record an episode regarding the final. But I'm a huge Moon Knight fan, which I think I say at the beginning of every Marvel thing. I'm a big fan of this, I'm a big fan of that. But I'm a very big Moon Knight fan. I've loved Moon Knight since my early comic days begun, and I was very excited about this because I thought it looked very good on the costume and the Mr. Knight stuff and everything, and I'm a huge fan of the Lemire run, which I thought this was going to follow most of the way through. But I have some positives and I have some negatives, and I know from a text from Nick he's got some negatives, which wouldn't be a surprise to anyone who listens. So I guess I'll start. Should I start with positives or negatives, or should we do all the negatives and then I'll try and wrap it up with some positivity?
Yeah, maybe let's start with the negative, because I feel like I might have a bit of a rant.
Okay, so you go first then. You start with your negatives and then
good, because
you'll
go through because my negatives are pretty.
You should say your affiliation with Moon Knight though as a character, like comic wise, if you know anything.
Yeah. So I absolutely love Moon Knight. Like, Jeff Lemire's run is insane. It's just amazing. Like, art, story, everything about it is brilliant, and anybody out there should go and read that. I also thought the follow-up run, which was Max Bemis's, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I loved his run as well. I thought it was really dark. The art was cool. I thought it sort of like tonally continued what Lemire was doing. And then I haven't read it since his run finished. It's sort of like, it felt like a good point to kind of like drop off a little bit as I was making the switch from single issues to graphic novels, which has been a struggle. It's like weaning yourself off an addiction. Yes, so love Moon Knight. And I went into it saying to you, and I think I said it on the podcast, that I was concerned because the comics are dark. They're quite visceral. And it reminds me of like Daredevil, the TV show. In my head, I was like, that's what the fight scenes should be like. It should be brutal and like fisticuffs, and that was the thing going into it, that I was like, I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to shy away because the MCU has a history of that, and they have. But that's not my biggest problem with it.
Well, he did beat up that CGI werewolf thing.
But you didn't see him beat it up, did you? Pulled out, and then you just hear the hits, and then it comes back into the room. Which I was like...
I mean, there has been some bits, haven't there? Where he's been a bit...
But not like...
A little bit of blood. But not Daredevil hallway scene beating the shit into everyone.
But you could totally do that with Moon Knight as well, couldn't you? Like,
of course you could, yeah.
Yeah, there is a version of that. And I feel like that's missed the trick. I think the performances are great. I'm a huge Ethan Hawke fan. Like, I really, really love Ethan Hawke. And so it's cool to see him kind of in a villainous role. And I think Oscar Isaac's great. And the rest of the cast are all cool. My problem with it is twofold. One is that I think and I've been saying this for a while, and it's only clicked with Moon Knight. I think the MCU has got to a point where it is kind of a product of its own hype. And I think that is starting to like, yeah, and kind of to its detriment. Like, I think it's not necessarily as entertaining, and it's becoming more annoying by seeing how much hype there is around things. For two reasons that this really stuck out on Moon Knight. One, going into it, and I'm sure you remember this, when the trailer first came out, and in the background there was a box that said Von, and people were like, Von Doom. Von Doom is in this show. Like, they're introducing and then people were adamant. They were like, Doctor Doom is introducing Moon Knight, which from the comics would make zero sense. Like, it's just not there. I'm sure in some runs they've crossed over, but like when I was thinking of like Lemire,
it's not really linked, no.
Yeah. And I was like, there's no way it's not there. But it became such a big thing from people posting it on like Instagram and Twitter that then you get websites writing articles that are like, Von Doom could be in thingy because of this. And so then the article is based off of somebody's screen grab of a trailer, and it becomes a news story, which feeds the hype machine. It feeds it. It's like, people are going to watch this show to see whether he's in it. Of course, you see the episode and he's not. It's literally like a Mr. Whippy fan. And you're like, people. The one that then aggravated me so much and just proved my point that I'd been thinking across the first two episodes was, I think it was Nerdist put an article out that said, are Moon Knight's multiple personalities a result of the multiverse? And the multiverse links to the MCU. And I was just like...
That's some good homework from their list.
I was like, read anything about the character ever, and you'll know that it's not. But what that article does is it gets people sharing, gets people talking, gets people being like, oh, this. And it builds the hype around the multiverse, right?
Uh-huh.
And that aggravates me, that the MCU has become this. And I said it, I think, with Falcon and Winter Soldier, that there was a teaser for for Hawkeye even. Sorry, I got it wrong. For Hawkeye, where you see Yelena fight a girl with blonde hair and a blue shirt. And leading into that episode, everyone was like, oh my God, Agent 13 is in Hawkeye. Like, you're going to see Yelena versus Agent 13. Cannot wait. This is it. It's everything. And then it's literally some random person that you've never met who just happens to be blonde and wears a blue shirt. Which could be anything.
Well, happened in the Loki trailer as well, didn't they? There was a character sitting in a purple background. Everyone thought it was Black Widow.
Yes. And like, I feel like Moon Knight has just been the culmination of all of this hype, where Moon Knight just isn't really connected to the rest of the universe in any way, which I'm completely cool with. Like, I'm actually happy that it's not got many plot threads linked to it.
Not yet.
Not yet. There's still one episode to go, but
They did talk about the astral plane.
this is true. But it's like it's at this level of absolute hype where it's just like it's completely missing the mark, because what it's trying to do is like match up to what people are saying about it, and I'm just like, it doesn't flow. And I think because
that we. No, you go. Sorry,
no, you go.
I'm just saying it's the same. It's the same story that we've had several times, isn't it? Where there's the source material. There are people that have never seen the source material, and they jump on the Moon Knight bandwagon, and they'll come into the comic shop that I run, and they will want to read about Moon Knight, but they won't want to read about the original run.
Yes,
they'll want to read about. They won't even want to read about the Lemire run. They want to read about the latest thing, because Marvel churn out these comics around the same time for launch for new writers. To be fair, Midnight Missions is actually quite a good Moon Knight comic, the one that's come out more recently. The first volume and the second volume is good, but they don't get it. So for a column like the Nerdist one to say about these things and get people hyped up about it, that's not really on the Moon Knight TV show, though, is it?
No, it's not.
But it's frustrating. It's a frustrating thing because people don't know about the source material and they're not willing to learn about the source material. They're basing it off this hype of Moon Knight, and it's shit. It would be like a director going into Moon Knight but not actually knowing who Moon Knight is. It's like Oscar Isaac did an interview and he said he had no idea who Moon Knight was. Kevin Feige got in touch with him or his agent and said, like, this is a character, but like a lot of the better actors will do, or actresses will go and find the source material first, like James Gunn posting all these comics and stuff, and he's like, I'm going to read everything. Or who is it as well? What's his name who plays Punisher?
Oh, John Bernthal.
Yeah, he went nuts.
Yeah.
He was every week on his Instagram. He's like, yeah, back in the comic shop, buying everything to do with Punisher, so I want to know exactly who I'm playing.
Yeah.
But these columns and stuff, you're right. They just write any old shit, and it's just to get people. It's clickbait, isn't it?
Yeah, it completely is, and I think that's the thing that is at Marvel's detriment, is that that's the talk online, is that like in between episodes you get people writing all these dumb articles, or it's based off of an Instagram or a Twitter thing, and you're kind of like, just can the conversation not be about the
Oscar Isaac's performance,
or about the comics and how that is related to the show? Can it not be like looking at where they're drawing inspiration or where they've done things? And it's not.
There's not a lot of it going, like, even when you think about like the Mr. Knight, the Declan Shalvey artist and writer now, like he's tweeting about it, but there isn't a lot of hey, this is where this came from, and like there should be an article all about Declan Shalvey, and like he took the Moon Knight costume and he made a twist on it. And even, I mean, the article should be that they've completely twisted that Mr. Knight character around, because he's not a bumbling Brit in the comic, which I'm sure is something else that's frustrated you.
Yes. So, like, ignoring all of this, like, I feel like what that hype train kind of does is that in the time between me seeing an episode, like in that week off, I see a lot of that, and it bugs me. So I go into an episode kind of being like, this is so annoying, which is annoying because I want to go into them with an open mind and be like, is this the one that's going to grab me? Like Loki, I think I was completely surprised that I loved Loki as much as I did, and it's still like one of my top MCU things. Like, I think the score was amazing, I think the story was great, and everything in there I really loved. But I didn't expect that. Like, going into Loki, I was fully prepared to be like, I just think it's going to be another MCU thing, but there was something special about it. I think made even more special by the fact that finale, it wasn't like a big spectacle. Like, obviously there was spectacle in it, but it was still, a lot of it was just talking.
It's just a conversation, wasn't it? It's three people in a room, effectively.
Which I really appreciate. I'm like, that's bold and it's interesting and it's different to the rest of the Marvel Universe and whatever. And I think with Moon Knight, you had that same opportunity where you've got a really interesting character and you can do really interesting things. And even if you don't one-for-one adapt a storyline, you can take chunks of that to create a story. And I think what Moon Knight has done wrong with its story is that it's taken more influence from Egyptian mythology than from the comics.
Yes, I completely agree, and that's probably my biggest frustration with the whole thing is that I don't quite think it knows what it wants to be or how it started, because it started out as like almost what felt like a little bit of a comedy, and then it's like an Egyptian, like Tomb Raider, Mummy Returns type thing, and now it's the Mental Institute thing. The best episode so far was the last episode that was out today, early hours, which was episode 5. Everything that was in the asylum / the hippo situation. And that was because I think if they just, it would have been very good. And it's easy to say, like, I would do it like this. But if you just had Moon Knight, if it just started in a mental institute, like if that was the premise, like there's this superhero locked in this mental institute, and like the flashbacks, a little bit similar to Book of Boba, but not so slow. Like flashbacks showed you how he got there, or like, is he really there? And that was the thing, like, is he actually in this mental institute? How is he going to break out of this mental like maze that he's created for himself? You can still have Ethan Hawke as the villain, but I think when you see them in the mental institute, and yes, I know they're on a big boat going through like not purgatory, but like the afterlife. But you know, there's still those elements, but I just don't feel like you need all the tomb stuff and everything like that. Like there's enough with the gods. It's like a huge step as well. Like so you're going from like I know Thor's a god and everything, but it felt quite grounded in a way as well with like the Avengers stuff. But within the space of a year, you've gone from Eternals, which are like, you know, this whole other thing, and like what they're called, what the big fuckers called, Celestials, and God and Egyptian gods and stuff like that. You know, you've got there's an awful lot going on at the moment. It's being very forced down our throats, and you know, we're about to throw like vampires into the mix as well. And it takes it away from like a Falcon and Winter Soldier series, which is obviously grounded. And it's just like, this is going on, but you know, there's also, you've got Thanos that's been doing stuff, you've got gods, and you've got things, and this could have just been the psychological thriller for 6 episodes, and you just want this Moon Knight character to break out. But I feel like it just all felt so like a bit mismanaged, and it's such a shame because I think Ethan Hawke is good. I think Oscar Isaac is great. I think he does the alter egos well, although they've mixed up a little bit of the Jake and the Steve Grant things. Like they're not the same as they would be in the comics, which is again is a bit of an odd choice. We can only assume that Jake Lockley is in the other you assume. I actually thought he was the one waiting at the car.
I thought that as well, because there was a taxi, and I was like,
oh, that's Jake, and we just won't ever find out. So I'm doing what I normally do, and like going around in circles, but I just think they missed the trick. I think it would have been, I think they should have just, like you kind of said, like they should have just stuck to a source material, like the Jeff Lemire run. If that's what they're going to go for, then that's what they should go for. Like it would have been cool for him to be like that, where when he's in this mental institute, like he had the Mr. Knight persona, but then when he's in the past and when he comes out finally, he's Moon Knight. But 6 episodes is not long enough.
No,
these shows either, because you finally, like my wife just said as well, you're just starting to get more into these characters, and then there's going to, like, it felt the same with Hawkeye and stuff, with the Kingpin stuff, like using stuff, but that reveal needed another 3 episodes to play out, and this needs another 3 episodes for wherever it's going to go. Like now he's found his balance and stuff like that, because you feel like Ethan Hawke's character Arrow is just going to be completely, he's just going to be gone, isn't he? It's like an hour, like, and it's going to be really quick, just like it was again in Hawkeye with the Kingpin fight and the fight on the ice between Hawkeye and Elena as well, which I know you loved. Like all too quick. It needs like 8 episodes, and that's why Daredevil was always so good, because you almost got 2 seasons in one. With an ongoing underlapping story. And I don't, because I've heard a lot of people say that they don't like the way Moonlight looks either and everything like that, but I think it looks good. Like even the Egyptian stuff looks good. Like the scene at the end of episode 2 when he's like, where do you think we are? And he's in Egypt and he opens the curtains. It's like, wow. But then that whole 3rd episode of him going around Cairo, wasn't it? just was so dragged out. It's just like you just these beats. But there's some like the bits when he phased out in the first episode in the ice cream truck and stuff. I thought all of that was really good and funny. So I think there's a lot going for it, but there's also some negatives because I think they've just thrown too many genres into it, I guess.
Yeah, I just like the first episode didn't grab me, and I think part of it was the MCU humor of like it just felt unnecessary. And I don't know if that's just again from me reading source material, but I was like, I don't remember reading Moon Knight and thinking like, oh, it's a bit of a comedy.
No, it's not at all.
And I think that for the first episode anyway, that was the thing that I was kind of getting bugged by. Was I was like, In the second episode, I remember thinking it was a bit better because I was like, oh, okay, so there is a bit more depth to this. There's a bit more kind of going on. And I do like the look of him visually. Like, I think he looks really cool. I think the things where he doesn't look cool is when you can clearly tell it's full CGI. Like, there's a couple of shots where like it looks like he's just stood there, but it looks like they fully CGI mapped him rather than he's just in a costume. And that looks a little like janky. It's look a little like, wait.
I mean, that's not going to look good if he turns up in the other, because he's, from what I've read, I don't think he's signed like a multi-year contract or anything, but I think they've probably got hopes to eventually have like a Moon Knight, Daredevil, Blade,
thing,
like type thing going forward.
Because the other thing that I literally was just reading about yesterday, which baffles me a lot, is that I'm pretty sure this is just a one season and done. Like, they've submitted this and Hawkeye to some award. I can't remember if it's the Emmys or something, but they've submitted it in the limited series category, which they're like, the breakdown for that is saying it has to be a series which will never get another season. Like,
I don't think it will. I think they're both. Hawkeye was essentially to get Kate Bishop on the map, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This is essentially to get all the background stuff out for Moon Knight. So when he turns up in Avengers or Blade or whatever he's going to do, like, all the alter ego stuff is done and dusted, and he's just awesome Moon Knight. But he's going to have to go back, or whether they, because you wouldn't. It would be too much to have an episode like let's say they do a Daredevil series, but Moon Knight is like a supporting character. If you've also got Moon Knight having a breakdown, and sometimes he's Stephen Grant, and sometimes he's I think it would be too comedic as well, wouldn't it? Imagine him bumping into Peter Parker. But I think going back, about the first episode, I think the thing that ruffled me up about it was a lot of Stephen Grant doing his British accent.
Yeah, and
I think, again, it's a shame that it wasn't set in the Mental Institute, and you just had like the flashbacks to when he got murdered, and Khonshu like saved his life effectively. Like, I just think it was a whole hour of the first episode just
of
Stephen Grant, and I like it. It was cool that he was like tied to his bed and everything. I like the first time you see Spectre in the mirror, and he's like, "Let me take over."
Yeah, that was cool.
That's why I like this episode more, because I don't mind the split. I like the split personality stuff, but it was a nice moment when those two hugged.
Yeah,
in the Mental Institute, it's like combined. I like the whole idea that they've got to balance each other out and everything. It just, I think the first two episodes were a bit of. Episode 1 and 3 were definitely a bit of a struggle.
Yes.
Episode 4 had its moments as well with good stuff as well. Like, I enjoyed it, but I don't know. I really wanted to like it as well, like really like it, and I think I just like it, not like it's passable, enjoyable. I think it all kind of rests on the season finale. Like, how does it end? Is it going to end with us thinking like Moon Knight's going to be popping up straight away, or is it kind of like, well, they could easily not renew it and we'll never see Moon Knight again?
Well, this is the thing. Reading about it, they submitted it for this thing where it says it's a limited series, and the stipulations of it are like it can't ever have a follow-on season. It got me thinking, where I was like, why would you tease Jake Lockley? Because if you're not going to have a second season, and you've got one episode where you suddenly introduced him, what do you do?
Well, they're probably. I think they're.
Ignore him, or Like,
unless he's going to get his own film. I mean, they could easily do a film, couldn't they? I mean,
yeah.
I don't really believe for a second that Stephen Grant is gone either.
No,
like,
he'll definitely be back.
There's no way he's if he can manifest him once, he can manifest him again, can't he? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, so there have just been like a lot of things with it where I just, same as you, where it's just missed the mark. And the thing where I texted you and was like, I think this is awful, was when they introduced the hippo lady, Tarawet, or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
Because it's that typical Marvel humor of like, we're going to show you something in the shadows which looks like a creature and it's scary, and then it opens the doors and it's actually like a cutesy thing, and it's like, hey.
It was funny when he screamed though.
It was funny when he screamed, but the hey pissed me off so much. I was like, no, you've done it before. Like, just no. And then it infuriates me as well that you give a character that isn't in the comics that much time, when you ignore a lot of what's in the comics. And that's where I was really feeling like, I was like, you guys just haven't, it's like you just haven't touched the source material. Like Mr. Knight's completely different. Like even just Moon Knight in general is different because he's not as visceral. He's not as kind of like brutal. And then you've got that you'd give that random hippo character a lot of time just because it brings levity to the situation of like, well, they're trying to balance life and death. And I get that's the MCU where it's like, well, we can't go too dark. We always need something that kind of like balances and gives a bit of light. Fine, like I get it. But when you get to like the 5th episode of a 6-episode season and you barely scratch the surface of what the comics do, it just grates. It's just a bit like, well, like where is
that's what you want, isn't it? You need another 6 episodes always to get to the comic stuff now. Like if he's gets this stuff out of the way, I just feel like the villain was wrong as well. You kind of wish it was even if they deviated from the comics more, and like it was because in the comics he's murdered by what's his name?
Bushman,
I think.
Yeah, which they mentioned in this last episode.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so I mean, I think you could have easily just had a villain being in the flashbacks and things, and then saved like Ethan Hawke for later. But anyway,
the weird thing about Ethan Hawke as well is like when I saw the trailers for it, and before they announced that he was like an original character that's sort of like a few people from the comics, visually he looks like the sun god guy from the Max Bemis run.
Yeah.
Who's like dark as like that is dark as fuck. Like there's a lot of shit in there where I was like, oh my god. And they would never do it because it would be like an instant R rating. But like visually he looks like him. And so I was kind of like in my head, I was like, oh, you have an opportunity to do a version of that. And you just, they kind of haven't. And yeah, it's all sort of like just not felt right with me. I also thought it was interesting because, again, I could be remembering this wrong, but Stephen Grant in the book, is he like, he's like a millionaire or something, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a bit like, he's labeled as like a Bruce Wayne, isn't he?
Yeah. And I thought that was weird that it's like the version that you've adapted of him is like, that's
the thing. Yeah, they've mixed them up a little bit. Not even mixed them up. They've just ignored, like, so they have, which is why I didn't think Jake Lockley was even going to be in it, because you've got Mark Spector's like the cool mercenary, kick-ass kind of guy.
Yeah,
and then Stephen Grant is the sophisticated multi-millionaire, which is how Moon Knight has like, he has like all this money.
Yeah,
and then Jake Lockley is the like dressed down cab driver, brutal, sussing out all the criminals and type things, but he's a bit bumbly as well.
Yeah.
So it's just odd. Like, what do they do with Jake Lockley now? Because he's not going to be a billionaire, is he, or a millionaire, or look like a Bruce Wayne type thing? Because he's a taxi driver. Like they should have just. I mean, they've done the Steve Grant thing, haven't they? Even that could have been fine as well. Like they're doing the Men's Institute, but like Stephen Grant could have been that, couldn't he? Like he could have you could have seen like loads of different lives. You could have wondered, okay, so 1 minute Oscar Isaac is this rich guy, and now he's Moon Knight, and he's also in a mental institute. Like, where is it real?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I think they missed the battle. But
Yeah.
obviously, that's a lot of Moon Knight talk.
Yes.
That seems to be fine. So we will wrap it up on our social media channels to talk about it more. But should we move on to something else?
Yes, let's do it. I've got a couple of quick fire things, which I don't know if you've seen, but I can give you a couple of sentences if not.
Let's do it.
Okay, so first one, Scream 5.
I haven't seen it yet. We are going to watch it. It's on our to-do list to watch, but it's probably maybe this weekend. I think we'll try and check out. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Nice. I've heard really good things.
Yeah, I missed it in the cinema, and I'm kind of gutted I did. I was meant to see it, and then I think I can't remember why I didn't.
It's supposed to be pretty brutal as well, isn't it? I think
there's some savage kills in it, but
yeah,
because I didn't enjoy Scream 4.
No, me neither. Or 3.
Yeah, 3 also was a bit ropey, but yeah, 4 especially. I remember seeing in the cinema and just thinking it was rubbish. And like, I think there's a scene where a guy gets stabbed in the head and then like continues walking and says something and then dies. And I was like, you would have just died. But it was there for like a weird comedic thing, and I just remember thinking Scream 4 was just dire.
Right, so no hippos,
no,
and no being stabbed in the head and walking and making a joke.
Die.
Got it.
But yeah, so I went into Scream 5 kind of like, I don't know what to make of this, but loved it. I just thought it was really well done. It was risky, some interesting kills.
Is it a good twist? Is it a good like
yeah.
Did you suspect who it was, or is it like
only
lay on?
Well, no, I didn't suspect who it was. It flitted between a few people.
Yeah.
Which I guess is kind of what you want. And there was one person who I was kind of like, oh, it won't be this because of this. And I'd sort of like ticking things off in my head of like who it won't be. So it did keep me guessing.
That's good. I'll watch it the weekend. I think that's what we're going to do anyway. Or that, and I'm going to try and get Yannicka to watch the Batman, because we were supposed to watch that last weekend, but we didn't get to it. So.
Exciting.
Exciting.
Yeah, so Scream 5 was good. I also watched Studio 666, the Foo Fighters thing. You heard of this?
I've heard of it, yeah, but I feel a bit, I don't know if I can bring myself to watch it. I feel very sad about the drummer.
Yes.
Dying, so
I watched it the same weekend that he passed away. It's good. It's like it's kind of like a B-movie horror that's like very kind of like Dave Grohl humor of just like, this is mental. But it was good. It was a good watch.
Is Jack Black in it?
I don't think so. No.
Or
if he is, I didn't recognize. But it sort of is in the same vein as that like Tenacious D video. But it was good. Yeah, I wasn't sure what to make of it before I went into it, but I was like, yeah, I actually really enjoyed that.
Nice.
Okay, a couple more things. One, I don't know if you've watched any of it yet, but Station 11.
No, again, it's we've been meaning to watch it. It just hasn't been an evening of watching time in the Barnes household the last few weeks. But it's on the list from when we last spoke about that and Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, Yellow Jackets was good as well. Yeah. So I watched the Station 11 finale. I think it must have been like 2 or 3 weeks after we last recorded that episode, and I'd written it down on my notes to be like, I need to talk about this because like I loved everything about that series. In the same way I loved Heels, like that everything about Heels was just like perfect to me. Station 11 was exactly this. I think the score's amazing, the cast were great. It's a really interesting story. It's quite different to the book from what I understand. Charles has read the book and he was kind of like filling us in on each episode, like this is really different, but I thought it all worked. So definitely worth the time if anybody's looking for kind of like a post-apocalyptic show. Last 3, but again, I'll do these in quick fire succession. I saw The Northman, which I know you had a ticket to. Did you see it?
Yeah, no, I didn't get to see it. No, I still got a ticket. I haven't seen it yet. But like a open ticket.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. The Lighthouse I thought was more interesting.
Okay.
So yeah, see what you think. We Crashed on Apple. Don't know if you watched it.
We've seen the first bit of it.
Okay.
But I didn't quite like it that much. I've gone a bit off. I've gone a bit off Jared Leto, I think.
I mean, I've heard Morbius is a shit show. I've not seen it, but
yeah, I've heard
I'm not surprised.
It's a shit show as well. Just a shame.
But yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting story and like absolutely baffling that it was real.
Yes,
I know it's based on a podcast about this event that went down at We Crash, but like just watching it is just ridiculous. Like every episode, you're like, how is this going on? In the last like 6-7 years as well, which was just nutty. Yeah. And then last two things, Slow Horses. Don't know if you've watched that.
No, we're gonna watch. We nearly started watching that, but we started watching Severance instead.
Oh, weird. I've watched a few episodes of that. Very odd.
Good.
Yeah.
Odd but good.
Yeah, I was going to try and finish it this week. Ben Stiller directed it as well, which is
he did. Yeah.
Mental. Slow Horses is really good. I think it's like 6 episodes.
It's the Gary Oldman one, isn't it?
Yeah, Gary Oldman, and I've forgotten her name. Kristen something. I forgot. Kristen Scott Thomas, maybe. But that, really good, really entertaining, really cool story, really addictive. Like we did like 4 episodes basically across 2 nights because we were just like, this is a hook. So really good. And finally, the one that I feel like everybody has to see, the Nick Cage film.
Oh yeah, really? You've seen it?
Oh my god, it's so good.
I'm so jealous. I can't wait to see that. It's definitely going to be one that I see when it comes out, like I don't know, on iTunes or something. But it sounds so good. I've heard so many good things about it.
It really is. Like I said to Charles after we saw it, I don't know if you'd like it if people weren't a Nick Cage fan. Well, I mean, admittedly, why would you go see it if you weren't a Nick Cage fan? But there's just like so many little things in it where you're just like, this is awesome. It's really funny. There's a couple of people in it who were in an Apple show called The After Party. And they're both like hilarious in it, and they're both amazing in The After Party, and Pedro Pascal's amazing. The whole thing is just, it's absolutely genius. Feels really original as well. Like I don't feel like I've seen something like that before. So
does he feel like he is just being Nick Cage the whole time, or does it feel like he's acting as Nick Cage? So he said it was like really hard to film.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's like they do this like kind of like arty thing where there's like the present Nick Cage, and that feels like he's playing him, but also he is acting a role, in that you kind of never question it. And then there's like an arty side to it where it's like the personality of Nick Cage and how the two of them sort of like cross over, and that is brilliant.
Okay. I will definitely watch it. I'll watch everything that you've spoken about.
It's all really good. So yeah, and then I guess, do we want to wrap up the episode with the Maisel?
Yeah, let's, because I think that's what the listeners are tuning in.
Everybody's waiting for. Yes.
So about over a month ago now, it was the season finale of the best TV show out there, surprisingly, which is The Marvelous Ms. Maisel, which is just so good. And I know Nick and I talk about it a lot, but it's so well written, and it's got these, I know we did speak about this last time, but these scenes where it's sort of, do you know, those Friends episodes where they always had like it was almost like an in-house episode where they spent all the time in the apartment.
Yeah.
So it was almost like, it wasn't like one shot, but it felt like it was just one, like there was no outside scenes or anything. It was just like, there's like an episode where Ross is trying to get everyone ready for their dinner. But Marvelous Miss Maisel, they do these long cuts where they're all either just sitting around a table, or there was one where they're on the Ferris wheel, which we did speak about. And they're just so well written. It's so fast paced, and they must be having an absolute fucking blast when they're recording them, because they're so funny as well. And every character in the show, if you've watched it, or if you haven't watched it, if you get started, you will basically fall in love with every character, even the ones that are dicks at the beginning, aka Joel.
Yes.
You just can't help but root for all of them. And Jesus Christ, like I think Abe is like the best character on TV.
Yeah, he's cool.
It's so good.
Yeah, it is unbelievable writing. Like I feel like it really is a masterclass. Like in the same way that I always think that Tarantino is like a masterclass in dialogue. I think this is of the same level where it's just like their dialogue feels real natural. It's got like a rhythm to it. It's got a beat. It all just flows, and because it's a comedy, the humor is just so precise, and it's so refined. Like
it's like effortless humor. It just feels like every other sentence you'd be smiling at. And I think I said this before as well, but I wouldn't ever really want to see these actors or actresses not in these roles. Like I'd hate to find out. I don't think I've ever seen the actor who plays Joel, anything else before, and I've definitely never seen him in any interviews. But I don't want to know Joel outside of Joel, and I don't want to know Abe outside of Abe, although I've seen him in other things before. Yeah. So I'm comfortable. Yes. I can't remember her name now. What's Abe's wife called?
Oh, I've completely blanked.
She popped up in something I saw recently, and I was like, no. It was something modern as well. I was like, no,
can't do it.
go back to your year. But it's so good, and I know it's not something that really bleeds into these pop culture podcasts, but I don't care.
It's pop culture adjacent.
We're going to do an in-depth on Marvelous Miss Maisel when it's all wrapped up. So, but there's only one season left now, isn't there? So
yes, and
you didn't even know it was the season finale. You were gutted.
No, but this is the thing that I was going to talk about, which is obviously, if anybody hasn't watched it, switch off here because I'm going to spoil this episode. But I've got to talk about, because like I don't know anybody else who's watching it at the moment, and so when I watched that episode without realizing it was the finale, the like final 10 minutes completely broke me. The character of Lenny Bruce, who I like absolutely love, who I just think is genius. The scene where he talks to her on the stage, and ends it by saying, "You'll break my fucking heart." I was like, I'm done. I can't. Like it just made me so emotional. Because you can kind of see he's on a trajectory of like going down, and she's kind of on this trajectory of she could go up. And he's sort of trying to inspire her to go further and take
to be better than him as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and to like really kind of take anything, like not be so picky, because that was kind of what this season was, is that she was trying to be like, I want to do it on these terms, and I want to do this and this, and it wasn't quite working. And for him to kind of like give that, and the way that it's acted, and the delivery of the lines and the dialogue, the like pause between him walking away from her and then just saying like, "You'll break my heart," was just like, fucking hell. And then to have the scene, like the very last scene of that episode, is her walking out into this blizzard and seeing like the talk show that I think was at the start of the season, or like a few episodes into the season.
Yeah, it was a couple of episodes in, I think.
Yeah, and sort of have that loop a little bit where it's kind of like you can see her like thinking it through and kind of envisioning what her trajectory is going to be. It was just, so hard hitting and just so perfectly written. It just hit me so hard.
My favorite bit was when they went to Shy Baldwin's wedding and they got cornered into the room where they were getting offered money, and Susie was like, "This much money sounds really good." And it's like, "We're not going to take it. Stick that fucking money up your ass." And it's like, "Oh, this sounds good though." No, fuck that too. And they like smacked the tray out of the waiter's hand.
Yeah,
it was good.
I thought the sort of like comedy show off between Maisel and the other comedian, I've forgotten their name.
The one from whatever it was called, the music thing.
Yes. I thought
Susie.
That was
not Susie. She's Susie. What's
Susie
her name?
Manager. I've forgotten her name.
Isn't her name a real name? Isn't her real name Jane or something?
Yes, it is, but I can't remember the character's name, which is really annoying. Sophie.
Yeah.
Yes. Their comedy face off when they were at the talk show thing, I thought was great. Like they're both just bouncing off each other so well.
I think I actually skipped that bit ahead because I found it so awkward.
It is insanely awkward. Like it was.
I don't do really well with like awkward things. Like you know, if someone's like singing something and don't know everyone's listening, it's like, oh my god, like I just have to fast forward it.
Yeah, it was so awkward, but it was just, it's so well done. Like just trying to one up each other, and it was like going off the awkward thing as well. The scene where she does the joke about sleeping with somebody who was married at the Jackie Kennedy dinner. It's like,
that was really awkward.
Hell.
She always puts her foot in it, doesn't she? But again, it's the environment sets her up to fail because they egg her on so much. And it's like, oh, okay, I can go one step further, but always ends in a shit show.
Yes.
It's good stuff. So we're really looking forward in the Barnes household for season 5 finale. Hopefully, maybe you can visit here and we can watch it all together.
Yeah, I will be a wreck. I'm not ready for it to.
Not ready.
No, it's
like Endgame, but on another level.
Yes, it is. It is more emotional than Endgame.
Definitely.
Yeah, can't deal with it.
So a bit of a short and sweet episode as we bow out with season 2. Before we do wrap up, though, just to give everyone that's listening a thank you for listening for the last 2 seasons. Obviously, a lot of delays on my end, but hopefully those are all done and dusted for season 3. So we're going to have a break, but we'll still be active on social media more so than normal as we try and keep things going on there. But we're going to relaunch with season 3 on the 15th of June, where we start our next in-depth episodes after the Batman ones. Do you want to go into what we're going to talk about, Nick?
Yeah, so I think we said at the end of the Batman episodes that
we did, yeah.
We're going to talk about the View Askew films and kind of run through Kevin Smith's films with the announcement that Clerks 3 is out this year sometime. We don't have a release date, but I feel like we've sort of both landed on this fairly
I think a bit of a lighter subject than the Batman films as well. I think it's nice. There's quite a bit of comedy in his films. So, I mean, the aim will be to have one of those out with you the 15th of every month, and we'll have guests again. We'll try and, I mean, we have no idea at the moment of recording when Clerks 3 is out. So if Clerks 3 comes out in the middle of this or close to the end, then we'll record that one and talk about that and then carry on with it as well. So we're going to do that, and we will release a pop culture related episode as well, as and when, whether it falls just before or just after, or it's a bit more spread out. So you still have us talking about things that we've seen or enjoyed recently, or mainly disliked, as we tend to like diss more things than actually say positive things. So that would be what we're going to do, and we'll have like I said, more guests, more promoting other podcasts as well and other things around, because I think that's a huge community, and we hope you keep coming back and listening to us.
Yeah, we're super excited about it. I think especially like, you know, kind of guaranteeing that we're going to have an in-depth every month on the 15th, and like I think our pop culture episodes as well, it's going to be really nice to kind of just dive into them as and when. I think like rather than us trying to structure things and then kind of say, you know, definitely going to do this or whatever, it's going to be a bit more kind of like ad hoc, but I think that kind of plays into what we do. I think it's more conversational, and it's more kind of just us riffing off of whatever we've seen that around that time.
I think it's easy to say, or it's maybe odd to say that we're still finding our feet after 2 seasons, but we are. Like every podcast evolves and it changes, and I think hopefully season 3 is the best season that we've done, and hopefully we keep doing them. So appreciate everyone for sticking with us, and hopefully you come back for season 3.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone. I'm very excited for it. I'm really excited to jump into the Kevin Smith films. I'm kind of
just
itching.
Can't wait to talk about Clerks 2.
Oh my god,
the best, funniest film.
You haven't seen Reboot, either of you?
No, not yet. So that'll be the first time. So that's quite nice as well, because that's something I've never seen before. So if you do want to keep following us, you can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at ConsistentlyPod, and on YouTube by simply searching Consistently OK Podcast. We stream on all podcast services, And as we said, from the 15th of June, on the 15th of every month, we'll do our in-depth episodes with pop culture episodes following on as and when the mood strikes us.
Yes.
Right.
Cool.
Anything else to add, Nick?
I think that's everything. Just, thanks for everybody listening to season 2, and we'll see you in season 3.
Yes, keep an eye on our social media, then we'll be popping up. We're going to try and do a lot more on there as well, with different thoughts and views on things coming out, such as the Moon Knight finale. So hopefully we really love it. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.